freezing out there, and we're around the drum.
Yeah, my phone said 8 degrees today.
I had 7.
There's a frozen cup of coffee on the step outside.
Oh,
Yeah,
nice.
I saw that.
Yeah, I kind of kicked it over.
So, what's going on?
Well, I kind of wanted. I was thinking about a conversation that we had where we were talking about using your ears, and what got me started on this was I was shopping on Reverb yesterday, looking at some used gear, and I came across a Joe Meek SE 2.2 that was like $275, which is a really good price for one of those. The problem with it was the meter didn't work, and I was thinking, well, so what if the meter doesn't work? Like based on the conversations we've had here, and so I was just curious, when you're mixing in the modern world where we're overloaded with lots of input with our eyes, we're getting lots of feedback on compression, and we're seeing everything in this minute detail. How do you, David, combat that and try to not allow your eyes to tell the story for you when you're mixing?
Well, I used to be really bad at that, actually.
Yeah,
I used to be like, I can't do more than 5 dB of compression. Well, now my PM1000 doesn't have direct metering.
Yep.
So don't really care about that. I just care, like, hey, does it sound good?
Yep.
My distressor, I kind of set it to where I'm just getting the sound I want, and I'm not even looking at the meter. I don't care. And then once I'm...
Okay, but if you do it, like, okay, say you're setting it blah, blah, blah. Then if you do look at it and you're like, oh my gosh, I've got, 30 dB of compression, do you then go,
Well, I'm usually like
or
hanging...
you're just like, no, it sounds cool. I'm sticking with what my ears told me.
It depends what I'm doing. Usually I'm at like 1 to 10. It depends. Like vocals, I'm going into a dynamic mic, so 1 to 10 is where it usually sits. And then
I'll take that as he would freak out if he saw 30 dB of compression.
if it sounded good, I wouldn't care.
Really?
Yeah.
What if it was your main vocal?
I've done that.
Yeah?
It was metal, so.
Okay.
Okay. And then in the software,
You're a better man than me, I'll say that.
in the software, I do compression on my SSL channel strip. And then I'm not even watching the meter. Don't care what that says. It's not very accurate at all. As far like it's probably accurate, but it's not detailed. So it's 3, 6, 10, 14, 20. I don't care what that says. I just want like an aggressive sound on the sibilants.
Okay.
And then I'll go into an 1176. I will pin that needle.
Really? After all that compression, you'll go and pin it?
Yeah. I don't care what the needle says. I'm just listening for the sound I want.
Good.
Do not care.
Good on you.
So that's my answer.
Okay. What about you? Now, you with compression.
Me? Yes. Yes.
I would... You tell me if I'm wrong. I'd say you're maybe more of a novice.
Yeah, I'm not as seasoned and salt and peppered as you guys are.
But you do know, I mean, you're obviously dealing with compression constantly. So you are, you do know how it works and you do know what it's doing to the sound. Do you spend a lot of time on your compression when you sit down and start recording, or do you have everything set and you just leave it?
Well, let me be cut and dry here. I basically have a preset.
This is another thing I want to talk about. Let's not forget about this. I want to talk about presets.
I have what it's already established. So I have my outboard compressors, which I have a channel strip, and that's compression set, and then I have another.
And what's your channel strip?
This Joe Meek 6Q. The meters work, by the way.
Okay.
And then it goes into a DBX compressor, and I have those set.
And the DBX compressor is
the
46?
46.
Okay.
And I have the 1074 on there too. It's a gate.
Okay.
Gate. So, I'm doing minimal levels at the time, and then I go into the DAW, StudioOne, and I've got two compressions on my channel, two compressors on the other channel, and then on the way out, I've got like another 1 or 2 on that. So each one, there's some compression. Now, your question about the metering, my answer is no. I don't look at the metering until the very, very end. like I'm looking at output.
So you're just looking at output. You're not looking at
correct.
Do you
okay.
check your gain staging?
Yeah, and that's what I guess that's
all
what
along the way. You got a lot of compressors in there. Are you checking
Yeah.
to make sure that you're not adding gain where you shouldn't?
I'd say yes. The answer yes. But what I would say the meterings,
Sounds wishy-washy.
Hashtag confidence.
Yeah, right.
Question mark.
So what I would think for me right now, the metering, the physical literal metering that you see is more of like an alarm system. Like
Yeah.
you're like going like, holy crap, what's going on there? That's like, that shouldn't be that high.
That was my point with the 30 dB of compression. That's for me.
Yeah.
I almost use it as an alarm system because if I see that, I might not change it, but I might go, "Oh, am I really certain about this? Because this is not going to be fixable if I'm wrong."
Yeah.
So yeah, it's like a, hey, look at me. This might be too high for you. Check it out. And you're like, oh, thanks, meter.
Yeah.
But then, like David is doing, you're listening for it. You're like, that's what you should be doing. You should be listening and seeing if it sounds good, and using those meters as like, reference points, and like going like, hey, whoa, that meter is like in the red. What's going on? Like it's taking out too much, or that meter's too high. So yeah.
Would you feel comfortable if a meter wasn't working?
If I knew what the hell I was doing, yes. Like,
do you know what I mean? What the hell you're doing?
Yeah. So it's like if it was
a piece of gear you were familiar with,
yes,
and it
absolutely.
stopped working, you'd be like, okay.
That's what I mean. If I have another 6Q coming in, I've used the one I had, forever with the right meter. So then you just plug and play. Like if you had a SC 2.2, is that what it is?
Yeah.
If you had one and you just bought this one to replace it or get a second one, and the machine. You shouldn't need the meter.
Right.
So that's the answer. You shouldn't.
I think for me, like for people who are just starting out, I really think it's important to try to use your ears and to not look at the metering.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe at first just to kind of get a feel for things, but really try to use your ears once you've got a little bit of experience and try to turn those meters off. Put tape over them or something to really try, because that's what's really going to help people learn. That's what helped me learn was just like really ignoring the meters.
Yeah.
And this brings me up to the next thing I want to talk about, which, there's two things. I want to talk about the presets.
Yeah.
Do you like presets? Yes or no?
It depends.
No. Yes or no?
Sure.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. I'm a big fan of presets, especially. Well, okay, I'm a big fan of presets. Let's talk about the DBX 160. The DBX 160 has a preset. It's just got one preset, but it's got a preset, attack and release.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And it's perfect for drums. Yes. So from that perspective, I love it. And I think one of the reasons that compressor is so loved is because of that. Because it has an excellent attack and release time preset in. You can't screw it up.
Are you talking about manufacturers presets or your own?
Yes, you have your own presets, I know, but I'm talking about manufacturers presets. And your own presets are relevant too, because with plugins we can save our presets. We can make our own presets and save them. But when I was getting started out with computer recording, I found as a beginner, one of the things that helped me a lot was having presets.
Yeah.
Like I used a lot of the Waves plugins back in the day, and I really liked I liked using them as a starting point. Like, okay, I'm going to put the drum setting on because it gets you close and it helps teach you.
Yeah,
that's true.
And I also think for people who don't know anything about compression, I'm going to go way out on a limb and hopefully people comment on this, because I'd like to know what people think about this. I think it's really good for people who are beginners to use presets because you don't know what you're doing. You don't. I'm getting real serious. This is like Maury Povich here.
Whoa.
You don't know what you're doing. You is that baby's mama. All right? Seriously, you don't know. And the way you're going to learn is by listening and using your ears. And it's much easier if you start from a place of experience. Those presets may not be perfect in those plugins.
Right.
But they're going to be close.
Yeah.
And what you dial in as a new user with your presets or with your plugins, what you dial in is not going to be close. It's just not. It takes time.
Yeah. And then the presets, especially when they come from Waves, they have like Chris Lord Algae presets and Dave Pensato.
Right.
They have the experience to know what's going to sound pretty good.
Right.
And then after the attack and release is set, it's just gain staging then. Like, how much compression do you want to do?
Right. And even switching between those presets, you start to get a feel for what you like, what your preference is as an engineer. And then from there, you can really start to dial it in and make your what if you want to have your own style to compression or whatever, you can dial it in.
Yeah.
And anyway, so I'm a fan of presets in general.
On the FMR, really nice compressor.
Yeah.
Is that easy button?
The super nice button?
Super nice. Is that a preset button?
Essentially, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
It's way more complicated than that, but
Yeah.
yes, it is essentially that engages different DSP inside the RNC. The RNC is a really oddball kind of compressor.
Yeah. And you're so
in a good way.
Presets, you're talking mostly compressors, and what else would you be talking about?
I'm talking compressors.
Just compressors.
It could be EQs too.
I wouldn't use.
For the beginner, they're not going to know how to EQ a vocal. They don't know how.
But you don't know if a vocal needs to be EQ'd.
Right.
But I take your point with kick drums and stuff like that. Usually, like where you want to emphasize or cut is essentially the same. But this is perfect. This brings up the third thing I wanted to talk about, which was going back to using your ears. When I started out recording, I had a lot of trouble where I would have a guitar player sitting in a room with me, not with me in the ISO booth, and I would try to dial that guitar in so perfectly by itself, soloed by itself, and it just never worked in the mix. And so it took me a long time just to learn that. And the trouble with EQ is if you do a lot of EQ on the way in, a lot of times you're hosing your source material. It's ruined.
Yeah.
And so how did you combat that with when you were learning? Did you have something similar to that where you made a lot of mistakes, or do you feel like you did a bunch of internet research? Because you see, when I met you, you were very much, and this was years ago, you were very much like researching, like what are the right attack and release, what's the right EQ points, like you were like 33.3 kilohertz is where I need to emphasize and I'm like, to me, I'm like the opposite. I'm like, I know what I know, and it took a lot of mistakes to get there.
Yeah. And when I was learning, I never EQ'd on the way in very much.
Smart.
If at all.
Smart.
And I still don't much. I do a little bit on my PM1000, but nothing more than 3 dB. And to be honest, I don't EQ a whole lot other than drums. Guitars, I get the tone the way I want it and do a high pass and low pass. And then bass, I emphasize a little bit in the mids, vocals a little bit in the mids to make them pop through, but there's not much EQ at all.
This is a human conversation I'm having with David. He is not telling me frequencies. Normally, it's like, I boost a little 330 hertz.
Well, yeah, it's so dependent on the song and how much space you have in the mix and that vocalist's
see, this is
tone.
why I think he's a much better engineer now. Is because he's not saying it's this exact frequency. He's saying, well, it's dependent, because that's the truth. It's very dependent on what you're presented with.
Yeah, and that just comes from experience.
Yeah.
It
took me years to learn that.
Yeah, same. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, I think that. What about you?
Yeah.
Tay?
What do you EQ?
Nothing. I EQ. After,
I really want Tay to get into recording drums so that we can.
Sure. Yes. But as far as like my podcast, I record and then I go back when I think it sounds like crap, and I try to EQ it so it sounds normal. Okay. Like sometimes,
What's your reference there? Are you using just your studio speakers, or do you put headphones on that you're more familiar with, or what do you do?
I do both. I listen to it on headphones, and then I also have 2 monitors that
Do you listen to your podcast in your car?
No. Nope.
You should.
Yeah, I should, but I don't. I don't have a way to, actually, because
that's
have
like an important thing to do, like for anything, whether it's music or podcast. It's important to like listen to it in your normal.
I have a CD player in my car.
Yeah.
That's it.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Well, we've got the speakers in the shipping area.
Yeah, that's a perfect place because you listen to those speakers all the time. It's important to listen to the things that you create on whatever you normally listen to music on, and in multiple scenarios, because that was another lesson that was hard learned, is making a recording and then taking it out of the studio, playing it in your car and just being like, what is
Yeah.
going on here? It's not working.
And I'm going to swing this back around to compression and metering.
Okay.
I've learned that I do have to check the meters every once in a while because, like, especially for drums, if I'm compressing too hard, like on my parallel drum bus, the attack is not going to translate on other speakers.
Yes.
So I've got to watch that I'm not doing too much on that.
Yeah.
So Jay, did you buy it?
Did I buy what?
The Joe Meek SC 2.2.
I didn't buy it. No, but that's, you know.
Does that stop you?
I'm
Does
thinking about it. It's been out there
stop
for a
you?
little bit, so I don't think it's gone yet.
Does that stop you? Let's throw it back at you, boy.
Would it stop me?
Yeah, would you get it for yourself?
Would you
At the
use
right
it?
price for sure.
Yeah.
I would say it's not quite the right price. So that was $275. If it was $200, I'd buy it for sure.
Okay.
But I would try to fix the meter.
I mean,
Because the meters are not going to rule me, but I do want the warning, like you said. I want that warning to tell me, really think about what you're doing because you are doing something extreme right now. Really think about it. Mm-hmm. And hopefully I come down and I'm like, yeah, I'm going to do that.
let's be honest. Like, you know, aesthetically, meters are cool, man.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah,
cool.
it's still there. It just doesn't work.
Yeah, well, I want it turned up. I want it Vegas style.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I'm going to make a little confession now. Every once in a while when I'm not compressing on the way in, but I just want the people in the studio to be impressed, I'll do a mult out to my distressor and just have the meters going crazy and then not compress on the way. Like, I won't send that to the converter.
Yep, that's smart.
It works.
That's smart.
All of us deceived.
You got to put your peacock feathers up and let them know you mean business.
Nice.
Yeah, it works. So
Cool.
Well,
But yeah, I just wanted to have a casual conversation like this. I think I want to do more conversations like this where we're just kind of talking about things because I think we get to different things that we wouldn't normally get to if we just don't necessarily have a defined set of topics, but we're just going to talk about recording in general.
yeah.
Pixel Pro Audio, Unfiltered, off the record.